SI 101. You are welcome to study session 5. Appearance and Reality. Introduction. In the previous study session, we explored the branches of philosophy. In this study session, we will examine appearance and reality as most fundamental philosophical problems. Learning outcomes. When you have studied this session, you should be able to 1. Distinguish between what is real and what only appears to be real. 2. State the difference between appearance and reality. Distinction between what is real and what only appears to be real. At one time or the other, you must have made a distinction between what is real and what is not real, or what is fake. You've said, for example, appearance can be deceptive, and you don't stop just at this distinction alone. You've also based some of your important decisions on that difference between what is real and what is not real. For instance, some of us married those who eventually married because we thought we were able to identify the difference between who that man or woman is and who she is not. When you look at a person or a thing and you comment to your friend, appearance can be deceptive. Watch out. You meant to say that behind what your friend is saying, there is something deeper which points at who that person is or what that thing is. When you describe something or somebody as fake, you meant to let us know that there can be someone or something that is real. The problem, however, is that are we always able to make that distinction? Are we always able to differentiate between what is real and what only appears to be real but is not? We live our lives with a lot of assumptions about things and people we think we truly believe to be real. Of course, you believe your husband or wife to be the real man or woman and that you did not marry another person. You believe that the table in front of you is very real. You believe that the food you just finished eating was real. You believe that the sun is reality in the sky. You believe that if you look out the window, you see so many buildings around you. You believe that you presently have on some clothes, and so you are not naked. You believe that fire is really hot and can be quite painful if touched, and so on. If I ask how you come to be sure about all these things, you may simply give me a puzzling look and may say, "Of course, I know them." Common sense says these things are real there. One of your reasons for knowing them may be that these things and people have been part of your immediate experience for a long time. When I say immediate experience, I am using a philosophical term. By this term, I mean the experience that our senses give us without anything standing in between. If I put on a sunshade, for example, I can't say that I have an immediate experience of the book in front of me because the sunshade stands in between my eyes and the book. But if I remove the sunshade, I begin to see the book in front of me immediately. So, most of the examples we highlighted in the preceding paragraph are things we come to know immediately, especially by sight. Your husband or wife is always present to your senses. You see the sun every day. Your hands enables you to put on your clothes. Your sight, smell, and taste told you about the food you just ate. Your eyes give you the testimony about other buildings surrounding from where you are now. Your sense of touch tells you fire is hot and painful, and so on. Yet, with all this, your sense of certainty begins to waver when you remember that there are so many times that these very senses we put so much trust in have in fact deceived us into believing something is so when it is really not so. Let me share a philosophical story that will illustrate the nature of this problem. Illustration. A man took a journey to his farm very early in the morning, as early as 3 a.m. in order to be able to get much work done before the sun rises. When he was very close to the farm, he noticed something white moving ahead of him just before he crossed the small stream that flows through his farm. He was so afraid because, he reasoned, what else could be that white thing moving in the bush ahead, if not an evil spirit or goblin? He stood rooted to the spot, waiting for the goblin to walk away. After accomplishing its business, he became very uneasy when the goblin refused to leave. Apparently, he could not also go on his way. It was like that until around 5 a.m. when other farmers started appearing. They also saw the spirit and became rooted to the spot with the same resolve to wait out the spirit. They believe that the spirit will eventually move since it would not want to see the daylight. Eventually, it dawned enough for them to see the spirit. To their utter amazement, they discovered the spirit was only a piece of white cloth caught among the shrubs and moving gently with the breeze. Analysis. When the man first saw the cloth around 3 a.m., he was convinced, on the evidence of his sight, that it was a spirit. He even persuaded others into thinking they saw the same thing, thereby taking their sight for granted. The problem, therefore, is this: is it always reliable to believe what our senses tell us? You can turn your mind to some of these instances when your senses, sight, hearing, touch, smell, and taste, have also deceived you into believing something was so when it really was not so. Did you come up with 2 or 3 such instances? Well, you may argue, what's the big deal? We make these mistakes all the time. Why must I put my mind to something so abstract and useless? Why should I be concerned with the difference between appearance and reality? Difference between appearance and reality. There is one fundamental reason why the distinction between appearance and reality is very important. This reason is that there is a need to be very courteous and careful in the assertions we make about our experience. This is because our experience does not always provide us with the knowledge about the real nature of things. Illustration. Mr. Tim has been your colleague for close to 20 years. He came to you one day with a form of attestation for a loan of 50,000 naira from the cooperative. You gladly signed the form for him, with the assumption that you knew who Mr. Tim really is. In essence, that's what the form is asking you to attest. One day, about 8 months later, the cooperative officials knocked on your door and demanded you pay on Mr. Tim's behalf because he had absconded with the money. Reflection. Would you say you really knew who Mr. Tim was when you were testing his form? If you insist that it is normal to make such mistakes, then you would ready to bear the often costly consequences of such mistakes. We have looked at the problem and the significance of the appearance and reality distinction in our day-to-day existence. The next thing to do is to better understand the definition of reality and appearance. Simply put, reality refers to what it means for anything to be or to exist. It is the totality of all things that are real in the universe. A thing is real if its existence does not depend on our perception or thinking of it. In other words, if we say that the table in front of you is real, what we are saying is that the table will always be there, independent of whether or not you are seeing or touching it. The ultimate test of what is real, therefore, is that it is available for verification by others. If the existence of a thing changes according to our perception of them, then we cannot really say those things are real. A good example is color. The nature of color is dependent on a number of factors like light and darkness, angle, distance, and so on. Color, in this case, could therefore be characterized as an appearance because its reality is dependent on our thinking and perception. The definition of reality and appearance raises several serious problems that will be obvious very soon. Let us take a very simple example. The table you are reading on now. That table will obviously satisfy the criterion for reality. A. Your immediate experience of seeing and touching it tells you the table is really there. B. It is also certain that it will continue to be there even if you are in the room or reading on it. And finally, C. It can equally and easily be verifiable by any other normal person as a table. Yet, with all these criteria, can we say we have really captured what it means for anything to be real? Looking at it, you can say that it is brown, rectangular, and dull when you look at it. But when you touch it, it is smooth and hard. When you tap it, it gives a certain sound. If any other normal person enters your room now, she would also acknowledge that the table has those features you have identified. It seems also certain that the table must be real, and you are certain it is real. If you look closely now, problems begin to surface about your assurance that the table is really what you consider it to be. Consider the color very well. On closer look, you discover that some parts of the table, especially those that are closer to the light, appear brighter and whiter than the rest. The distribution of the color pattern on the table also changes the more you move to different parts of the room. This tells us that if there are about 3 people in the same room examining the table from different angles, they will see different color pattern on the same table. If you put a colorblind person into the room, she will see a completely different color on the table. The significance of this becomes clear if a painter were to paint the same table from 3 different angles. You will definitely see 3 different tables. What then is really the color of the table? Can we even say it has a particular color at all? Consider the table's texture to your naked eyes. It certainly appears smooth and clean. However, if you place the surface of the table under a microscope, you are confronted with the roughness of the surface which your eyes can't normally see. What then is the real texture of the table? The one your eyes can see, or the one visible behind the microscope? The same problem confronts you when you look at the shape of the table. According to common sense, the real shape of the table is certainly rectangular, but that shape is given to you from a particular point of looking at the table. If the real shape is rectangular, then it should look rectangular from any angle in the room. Again, the significance of this becomes clearer if you were an artist sketching the table from various angles. Thus, the sense only succeeds, again, in giving us what is only an appearance about the table and not what the real table is. The problem now is, what is then the real table if all we have considered are appearances? Our usual common sense approach is that we moved from these appearances about the shape, color, sound, and texture to infer that there is a real table in front of us. Are we even justified to conclude that there is a real table different from what our common senses tell us? Is it even possible to know things as they really are apart from the testimonies of our senses? By this experiment, we have disturbed our definition of what constituted reality and what constituted appearance. If we are not able to know, for instance, the real nature of the table, then we are left with only appearances. Yet our common sense tells us that the table we are seeing right in front of us now is the real table. An added problem is that it is not all appearances, like that of the table, that should be trusted. Some appearances are false. For instance, the appearance of water on the road when you are traveling in the sun is false. Even if you eventually shrug your shoulder and think that what we have done is not really important, you have gained one crucial insight: never take your senses for granted. Study session summary. In this study session, we confronted one of the most important problems of philosophy. This is the attempt to differentiate between appearance and reality, between what is real and what is not real. We said that this distinction is very important for us because, in spite of appealing to this distinction in our day-to-day conversation, we rarely reflect on it. This is the attempt to differentiate between appearance and reality, between what is real and what is not real. We said that this distinction is very important for us because, in spite of appealing to this distinction in our day-to-day conversation, we rarely reflect on its deeper meaning and significance. Its significance lies in the fact that we usually make this distinction between what is real and what only appears to be real, based on the testimony of our five senses. Finally, we discussed the differences between the reality and appearance. We have now come to the end of study session 5. Thanks for listening.